Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain North America Live. As we're nearing the end of the fabulous 2 days of very insightful and interesting discussions on the state of the industry and what's happening right now, but also a view into the future as well. So for this session, we'll be looking at the rise of robotics and looking at how the industry is evolving, taking a look at the latest innovations, case studies, and understand the real potential of robotics and automation. I'm joined by Harry Chase, Director of Advanced Materials at GE Appliances, Dave Paquin, Director of Industrial Segments at Locus Robotics, and Tim Miller, who is a former employee of major OEM and now is working in a different sector. So pleased to have you all here with me today. Looking forward to a very interesting conversation on robotics and automation. And let's kick off the conversation with some kind of insights and what's happening in your world, Harry. Of course, GE Appliances you've been implementing a lot of AMRs and making great use of these kind of solutions. What's happening in your world right now on this side of things?
Yeah, so GE Appliances decided 3 years ago that automation was a key to our success at our operating plants. We run 8 manufacturing plants in the U.S., and then we have 3 inbound warehouses for direct material. And then also we operate 3 service part warehouses. And so as we've gone through, we really look at how do we improve the employees' work once they get to the factory. So we've really focused on automating dirty, dull, or dangerous jobs. It's kind of the mantra of automation. And also we look at how do we get the robots supporting the team members versus vice versa, where they feel like they're supporting the robots or the automation. Over the last 2 years, we've implemented several types of robots, AMRs in particular. So we've really gone down the path of autonomy to make sure that we can be very flexible. And the flexibility is one of the key things for us, why we've really focused on AMRs more than other types of technology. And the main purpose for that is just with customer demand changing, with the flexibility of the world, people wanting to see different types of product more come to market faster, then we have to respond inside of our manufacturing and the whole supply chain. Whether again it's utilizing parts, automation inside of our inbound warehouses or out at our service warehouses. We have again, we've been doing about 25 robots per year over the last 2 years. We've deployed, we've done a couple of robots in service part area, and then we do run a lot of robots over in the inbound side. And then inside the factory, we really found one of the best uses for it is moving product from the receiving docks over to the assembly lines, or we're using them a lot for work in process movement, or even probably the first one we actually put in 2 years ago was really a smaller 100-kilogram robot that we utilized to move pressure check valves. So something we have to put on to test a refrigerator and then take off 200 feet down the line. And we use that to move back and forth between, when it was taken off, move it back to the install point. And the operators love that type of thing because before, somebody had to call on the radio, run over, get it, and kind of deliver back over. So again, most of our implementations have been, we like to ask the employees where they like to see these robots deployed. We give them the chance to name them. So because we're in Kentucky, we have, Blue Cat 1 and Red Bird 1 at one of the factories after Louisville and University of Kentucky. So they see it as a big help to them. And it's been really successful. This year, we have a target for the company overall to double our automation. COVID slowed us down last year. This year, again, putting 50 AMRs into the factories might be a stretch, but we have a path to install 40 more.
Brilliant, fantastic. Glad to see you're making great use of that. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And before I come to you, Dave, let me just launch this poll, because I think that's it's quite relevant what you're saying to this poll. So let me just make this poll active. And basically, it's what is the main reason you have implemented robotics or would implement robotics in your warehouse? So I'm just going to make that live, and then we'll let the audience engage in that poll, and then we'll come back and review it a little bit later. So, Dave, of course, working for a manufacturer of and distributor of robotics. What are you seeing from your customers, and what's the state of play that you see in the industry at the moment?
Well, the things Harry was saying are pretty common. The drivers for bringing robotics into your operation or expanding it. But, I think productivity needs to be a part of what's driving it for most people, but it has to come at, or it can't come at the expense of quality or safety. So, having the ability to increase productivity lines per hour in a spare parts picking operation, for instance, but not sacrificing quality or on-time delivery is key. You can't sacrifice one for the other. But labor is at a premium right now. It's hard to find. It's hard to retain. We talk to clients or customers who have 100% plus turnover every year in their picking operations. You need solutions that are flexible, scalable, and easy to learn, because potentially, 50% or more of your workforce could be temps, people coming in the door, working for a few days and leaving. You can't put 2 weeks of training into that. So the solutions that we're being asked to provide need to be, user-friendly, easy to learn, quickly scalable. As volume in a distribution network shifts or changes, you got to be able to scale your capacity. And that's not just increasing it. If you shut down a building or move volume from one building to another, certain buildings need to decrease their volume quickly as well. So that's what we're being asked for: scalable, flexible, easy to use.
Fantastic. I think that's everybody's dream, right? The dream solution. Just plug it in and let it go. Probably not that easy, but Tim, of course, you've worked for a major OEM and been responsible for a lot of the implementation of this. What have you been involved in, and how did you make maximum use of that in the facilities that you were responsible for?
Well, you were right. It's not as easy as it was said. It was definitely a challenge. We learned a lot along the way, but we did prioritize safety and quality. That was our number one priorities. And then we focused in on the productivity. The key thing for us is we had to change to adjust to the technology a little bit based on our storage criteria. And once we realized that we had to come out of our own ways and work with the bot a little differently, that's when things really took off for us and skyrocketed our productivity. We were hovering at about a 20% increase very quickly. And then once we adjusted to the technology and learned what was the best practice for that technology, that's when things really improved. And I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but we went from 135 baseline and to a peak in a single day at 220, 230 we hit, and then we were maintaining around there. And then COVID hit, and we've been, we were recovering from then. But we were achieving business case targets within the first 6 months rather quickly. Harry spoke about employees adapting to the robots and the embracing of bots. Interestingly enough for us, we started off and we had a slow scale up plan. We were going to add just a few delivery routes each day. By the end of the week, we had it implemented fully. We were planning on going back to a previous successful day on the following Monday because our volume spikes on Mondays. And our employees on Friday, they knew we were going to bring back the carts. But Friday night before they left, they were asking, can we please use the bots? So that was that adaptability and engaging the employees that Harry was talking about was very important for us. Yeah,
that's really, really interesting. And I'm really pleased that that's happening, because of course there is a lot of talk around, you know, the human factor versus robots and, you know, those kind of things. When you first talk about this, what kind of reactions do you get from them?
It's the standard response I think that we've all heard, and leadership is you're coming for our jobs, you're taking our jobs, those type of things. And that wasn't the case. We ended up, you know, really focusing on safety and the quality of it, of the tools, and our quality improved as well. We used to pick multiple dealers at a time. What we are allowed to do now is pick dealer pure. So we drove our error rate down, and we drove it down to the level where we didn't have that many errors. We could call the dealer and ask them to check their inventory because we know ours is right. So we got to that point where we lowered the water level so much that we could solve problems daily in that manner and have that customer contact, which was great.
Perfect. And Harry, you've got your guys there naming the robots and personalizing that to that degree.
You know, unfortunately, we have a couple of robotic floor sweepers, and everybody wants to call them Rosie from the Jetsons. So that tends to be one of the common ones for the floor sweepers. But they do enjoy it. You know, we got the Three Stooges at one place. You know, that they've named them, and they tend to really enjoy the naming. Again, our focus, you know, as Tim mentioned, we really want, you know, safe operations. Our goal has always been, you know, elimination of forklifts inside, you know, away from the warehouses, the unloading docks. We'd love to find, you know, solutions to unload the trucks if possible. We're looking at a couple different alternatives right now to do that. But again, I think people enjoy once they get used to them. You know, probably when they first see them, they I guess they freak out a little bit. We run like a, you know, Locus, where it's a, you know, 100-kilogram robot, pick robot, supporting. And for some reason, when those come in, people are like, oh, okay, it's a robot. But we also run a different style of tugger robotics. And that's what really freaks them out, is because it's running without a person driving it. And so it's been interesting to see how people respond to the two different types of robots. You would think the more, you know, strange-looking one would be, you know, less adaptable, but that really has been, for some reason, people see that as their helper. Whereas the tugger ones, they're a little bit more hesitant to engage with. Again, it just freaks them out that nobody's driving them. They feel like they have to jump on.
Sure. And you've been also using them for in innovative ways as well.
Yeah, so we've done a couple different things. We try to be really clever. I don't know how clever we ended up being, but we have added UVC lights to some of the robots. So we did our own design, and so we do run those around in forklift, you know, charging areas in between shifts, and we also run one in our training center. It is, you know, mentioned the turnover can be high in the COVID times, and people off on COVID leave, and so we're bringing a lot of employees in. So as one of the extra precautions, we run UVC robots through the training area after every training session. And then we also use it, we've got a couple new systems out that we're using it for material replenishment. So we've added a collaborative robot on top, and we're actually going out and reading inventory line side to send signals back to the marketplace for that trigger. So we found we've got like 10 other uses. We've got a little development area we've set up at one of our warehouses, and there we bring in 2 or 3 different brands, and we'll try interoperability is one of the big things we're looking at right now, is how do we get different brands working with the other brand of robot Because some people, you know, it's like buying your latest cell phone. You get really, you know, hey, I got this iPhone 12 and all of a sudden iPhone 13 Pro comes out and you're all upset. And robots can be the same way. You know, you're like, hey, I got this. And again, we really appreciate the manufacturers because they have made them, you know, as flexible as they can. But there's some new, you know, we've had some robots that we've had to send back because there's new technology and LiDAR coming out that we have to, you know, have. They can't do it in the factory, so we have to pull it out of service, send it out to the manufacturer, replace the LiDAR. You know, luckily it's kind of like Tesla's that you can get the updated software online sent down to us most of the time. But it is interesting. That's why we like to look at several providers to work with. Some, you know, some offer just, you know, tugger style. Some offer, you know, flat top. Some offer, you know, different style of pick mechanisms. So we're very interested in that. We're pushing right now. We're very interested in the mobile robotic ASRSs, and so we're deploying one in our service parts warehouse. Should be in the middle of March when we have that up and fully integrated with our WMS. And so we are interested in seeing, you know, where we can push the boundaries of what these AMRs can do. Just because, again, they're from, you know, a safety standpoint, they're incredibly great. But the flexibility to change the routes around, if, you know, we can send these things in seconds to a different place or waypoint to perform a task. And so it's just been a great help to kind of get this technology in our hands. Now, I'm an old guy, and I've been, this is like my dream from 30 years ago when I was a younger engineer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, this is like heaven now that you have this technology and the flexibility and the capability that these systems have.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think, you know, and I wouldn't say you're an old guy, Harry. Yeah, I think, I mean, this is interesting, right? You know, keeping pace with the technology, you know, is always one of those things, right? It's advancing so rapidly. I think, you know, Dave, from your perspective, you know, how do you as a service provider, you know, ensure that your customers are keeping pace with that technology, and you're able to kind of say, okay, well, this is the latest solution. I guess, you know, Tim, I know you've had this experience as well, right? So
yeah,
maybe I'll come to you first, Dave.
When I was contacted about participating, I said, well, I'm out of the industry right now, so it's going to be about 3 months and I won't be up to date anymore. That's how quickly things change. I remember going from my first time at ProMat, Modex and those type of things. And first year, I remember seeing just a 2 or 3 AGVs. And I go back the next year and there's 20 AGVs. Now I've got a selection and it's harder to, you know, see what you like, but that's a good thing. So it's growing and it's changing really quickly. The number of AGVs and AMRs that are coming onto the market. It's exciting.
Yeah, and I think, you know, some of the things you think of when you think about how it can progress, you know, month to month, week to week, year to year. You know, battery life is a big one. There's always new chemistries and new ways of charging to make them more efficient. But I think where a lot of the value is being added right now is in software. You know, the picking algorithms, the cubing algorithms to make sure you're getting the most in all your totes, your boxes, or on your bot. The navigation through the warehouse. You know, all of that is mainly software driven, which can be typically upgraded remotely. You don't have to deploy a new bot to do a lot of that. And then the guidance, the cameras, the safety, those things are upgrading at a pretty rapid pace as well. You know, bots are more able to navigate successfully through a warehouse without getting confused and you know, shutting down or turning around and going the other way. So I think those are the types of things we're seeing. You know, the configuration of the bot itself probably isn't as critical. I think there's a lot of different configurations depending on what products you want to move or pick or transport. So I think you're going to see more on the software end than anything else in the coming years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, it's always the thing, right? It's going to constantly evolve and constantly be updated. New technology is moving so rapidly, but I think key is to make sure you're adapting the solutions to meet your demands, right? That's the key there. Just there's a question coming here, so I thought this is quite an interesting one. I thought because, of course, looking at the cost of implementation of these robots versus labor. So let me just read out the question for you. It's specifically related to Mexico in this instance, but I guess applies to other regions as well. So typically for Mexico, labor cost is cheaper than technology. Therefore, automation is not always the cheapest solution. Regardless, labor costs would normally increase and technology should be cheaper with time. Do you have some kind of analysis in regards to the future of where this future is kind of heading?
Yeah, I guess I can probably give my take on that. I think the cost of labor is one thing, but the availability is another. And I think we're seeing that in Mexico now too, and even South America. We get a lot of interest from that part of the world. Sometimes it's a little harder to justify a business case. You can't pay off the technology in 12 to 18 months like most US companies want to do. But there's definitely more of a driver. Labor rates are increasing in those areas. But you also still got to look at safety. You got to look at the quality. All of that has to factor in. And technology does typically get cheaper over time. So I think you're going to see, I mean, that's kind of the last part of the business world that hasn't embraced automation so much yet, but I think it's coming, and I don't think it's a decade away. I think it's a couple of years away at best.
Yeah, sure. And Harry, you have, of course, managed facilities all over the world, right? So how do you manage that dynamic in different parts of the world where, labor is significantly cheaper than in other parts?
Yeah, I think when you first look at it, kind of to echo on Dave's point, is that the first one's always expensive, right? It's the learning curve to get it in there. But I think what we've seen traditionally, if you're willing to, look at a 2-year payback, a lot of companies want 1-year instant paybacks. But even with the lower labor rates, we're seeing 2 to 3 year paybacks come through for the equipment. A lot of the companies, we don't do this. A lot of the companies are offering robot as a service, which even, drives the ROI, a lot quicker. But we're really seeing, from purchasing and implementing and just the flexibility. It runs on 3 shifts the same way. We get consistency out of the processes. And so it's really been a big driving factor to look at, again, safety, quality. These are dull, dangerous, dirty jobs, no matter which country they're in. And I think most of the employees do appreciate when we can take that away from them and hand it over to some type of automation. Again, I think the paybacks are getting, especially in the last 2 years, the prices are coming down. And the real cost is the navigation systems. And I think as they're utilizing more and more, that'll drive the cost down for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, this is always the balance between the investment and then your return on investment, right? And how quickly you can justify that. Dave, how do you kind of go about convincing people of that return on investment?
Well, one thing Harry brought up is robots as a service, and that's typically how we go to market. So there isn't a lot of upfront investment. There's not a lot of infrastructure changes required for AMRs. So the investment, the payback's more immediate. If there's a labor savings, it doesn't need to be so great that it covers $500,000 in capital. There's very little required upfront in that type of a business case. So that's kind of how we get by it. We do want to reduce labor or at least reduce labor content, maybe is a better way to say it. And there has to be a cost savings for every project. But offering robots as a service, no capital, not worried about obsolete technology 18 months from now. it's all included. So that's I think what people are looking for, and that's how we go to market.
Sure. And Tim, from your side of things, how were you kind of measuring that? Was that based on kind of efficiency? What were the things that you were measured on?
It was inclusive, so safety, quality, cost. We took our safety incidents, we calculated what those would cost, our quality issues and what those cost. And it was all in number for us with a 1-year ROI is what we went after. We were able to achieve that. I would also add, though, that it's important to get in and learn and understand this technology and be ready for it when it does meet your price point. I wouldn't wait just because of the labor cost isn't there yet. There's other benefits I think Harry talked about too. So that would be my take.
Yeah, I think this has been, conversation that we've had, throughout the conferences. Assessing the technology and evaluating things all takes time, and you have to do all the due diligence. But then, sometimes you just have to make that first step, as you were saying as well, Harry. It's just, let's just do it, get it going, and see where it goes. I think.
Yeah, we've been pretty successful. I won't say that we've had 100% success factors. We try to do some moving of units off the end of the line to test cells. We got a lot of resistance there. Quality, of all, you would think the quality guys would jump on board right away, but they seem to be more offended that they couldn't leave a lab once in a while and drive over, to pick a dishwasher off the line. So we do get some resistance still, but again, I think you got to jump in, and these tools are, really honed in, and all our partners have been great. When we work with them, if we do run into issues, they've been very responsive to us. Sending fixes out or patches out. We really haven't had that many needs to go back and say, we need a patch to fix this. We've had some probably more issues that we're asking for more capability out of the robots than was initially designed. So we're very interested in, swarming technology and how the robots can talk to each other. And unfortunately, in manufacturing, we still have some dead end aisles, and so if one robot's down there, we don't want it entering that aisle, and so we've been working around some issues about how do we get more swarming technology that each robot knows where the other one is and they talk more, and that's really coming. We're seeing more and more companies starting to offer that. Again, technology is changing so much and the software is changing so much that we see a lot of the capabilities that we thought we wouldn't see probably for another 3 years or come to fruition this year.
Yeah, I think that's quite a nice kind of segue. I know we're kind of running close to kind of time, so maybe we could quickly review the polls that we had a look at. So let me just show the results here, if we can do that. So I think we can just see that. I can see it better on my screen. So I think for that first poll, it's kind of nearly split. What's the one? Can't really see that on my screen, but yeah, you can see the polls coming in there. So I think increasing efficiency is really what we're looking at here, right? So I think you guys are on point there with that drive towards efficiency, being flexible, adaptable, etc. So just maybe one last point in terms of, or comment from you guys in terms of what would you want to see from robotics in the future? If there's one thing that you'd like to see kind of be developed, or one application for that, what would that be?
Yeah, from my standpoint, it's interoperability. So how do we get different systems or even fixed robots or collaborative robots that talk the same language, and we don't have to resort to API calls and different, or a middleware to kind of do the translation. So that's really where I want to see it, where they're truly collaborating with each other is kind of the focus we look at.
I'm looking forward to seeing more robots be able to work independently and not depend on human interaction as much, and be able to set up a standard condition where certain bots can take what they want out of the location. That's what I'm excited to see next.
Fantastic. And Dave, the innovators.
Yeah, I think, you know, it goes back to continuous improvement. Everything these bots are doing, they need to be doing better. They need to be, you know, Harry, I think you hit it on the head with integration, though. I can tell you, in the sales cycle of selling this type of technology, the integration discussion is always the kind of the long pole, and it's probably the most costly part for a customer as well. So if there could be a common language, so to speak, that all of these technologies could speak to each other somehow. I don't know if that's possible. Everyone wants their own proprietary type information and ways of doing things, but I think it would make it a lot easier. It'd be a little more plug and play.
Fantastic. Well, that's some really great insights there. Of course, thanks, Harry. And of course, I know that from your side of things, that you've got humans and robots building fridges and washing machines. So, you know, everybody can be rest assured that you're getting the highest quality product that there is out there.
Definitely.
And Tim and Dave, thank you very much for your contribution as well. Really insightful discussion there on the use of robotics and how that's going to evolve over time. Still a long way to go in terms of reaching that optimal efficiency, but that's given us lots of food for thought there. So thank you very much. We'll go end this session here, and we'll look forward to welcoming you into the next session, which will be taking place very shortly.